Today on Time About the Movies, we take a look at Marlon Wayans' new spoof comedy, A Haunted House, and Ruben Fleischer's latest film with the cast that includes Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone, Josh Brolin, Nick Nolte, and Sean Penn, Gangster Squad. We'll take a look at those two movies, plus I made a mistake on the last episode. There was two other movies I should have covered, and I found this out because as I was editing the Best and Worst Movies of 2012 video today, I saw two movies on the list that I did not include in the video because I didn't do a review for them. So we're going to take a look at Hungarian Rhapsody, Queen Live in Budapest 86, as well as A Christmas Story 2. I'll leave you to guess which one was in which, but you want to know how I remembered to put that down? I had to write it down myself. So we'll take a look at these first, and then we'll take a look at the two new releases for January 11, 2013 today on Time About the Movies. And Freddie Mercury indeed kept on fighting until the end, until the AIDS virus got him in 1991, sadly. Welcome to Time About the Movies. We are going to take a look at the two films released on January 11, 2013. But before we do that, as I said before, there were two films I forgot to put in the last video, the 2012 Leftovers, because I completely forgot the dates that these were coming out on. But they were both of my best and worst movies list from that particular year. So we'll start off with this one here, Hungarian Rhapsody, Queen Live in Budapest 86. Now, this is a film split up into two different segments. It's a 25-minute documentary that starts the movie off as, it chronicles the 1986 world tour that they were on, the Magic Tour, and shows exclusive interviews from 86 featuring the members of Queen and talking about the songs they were producing at the time, some for the soundtrack of Highlander, and talking about the tour itself. The second part of the film is the Budapest concert from the tour, with concert footage interspliced with Queen visiting some of Budapest's great sites. And I honestly believe that Queen is up there with some of the greatest things to happen in music ever. They had just as many memorable songs as the ones I mentioned did in this movie, featured all those memorable songs. Bohemian Rhapsody, Under Pressure, We Are the Champions, We Will Rock You, Who Wants to Live Forever, just so many more. They are arguably the greatest rock band ever. I don't care what anybody says. Queen is up there with some of the greatest rock band of all time. I mean, Bohemian Rhapsody is the greatest song of all time. I don't care what anybody says. It is legitimately the greatest song of all time. This is also one of the last major concerts for Freddie Mercury before he actually found out he was HIV positive, making it Queen's last tour. One of the big questions I have of this movie is, out of all the concerts that Queen did on this tour, why choose this one to make a movie? I mean, why not the last Queen concert they ever did, which was still a couple of years away? It's just something I thought was kind of interesting that the Budapest one in particular is the one that they decided to go with here. But despite all that, this is still a fantastic movie to watch. Being such a fan of Queen's work, it was great to see this on the big screen, to have that concert experience. While watching it, you really do feel like you're at a Queen concert. It really was a fantastic theatrical experience, and one of the more enjoyable moments I've ever had in a theater. And yeah, you had to search it out for theaters, but luckily you can find it out there on DVD and Blu-ray as of now. But I'll tell you this movie is what Bohemian Rhapsody should have been. Bohemian Rhapsody is okay, but it's basically a generic music safe and marketable biopic that goes down that doesn't want to tell the real story behind this, and you get more emotion from this concert film than you ever did from Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, that movie, I'm gonna get more into it when we get to 2018, but at the same time, it's just like this is what Bohemian Rhapsody should have been. A theater-going experience that you'll never forget. This one is definitely the much better film than Bohemian Rhapsody is, and I will take that to the grave. Hungarian Rhapsody, Queen Live in Budapest 86. Seek this one out if you have not seen it. It is one of the year's best movies, easily. Now let's take a look at one of the worst movies of the year, and really it's not much of a surprise because it's A Christmas Story 2. The official sequel of A Christmas Story, which bullshit.
That keeps on giving.
This is for you from Aunt Clara. That is too adorable for words.
Because when I think of an official sequel to A Christmas Story, I think of, grabbing every single reference from the original movie and putting it in this movie. No joke. That's all this movie is. It's just, hey, remember this from A Christmas Story? Remember this from A Christmas Story? It's all of that, except it's even worse than you could possibly imagine. This movie is such a disastrous mess of a film. It's set 6 years after the events of the original, following a 15-year-old Ralphie who looks like a Ralphie that you would see in a fake commercial. The singular commercials for A Christmas Story, when they did Christmas Story, looked more realistic than this dude does as Ralphie. He wishes for a 1939 Mercury 8 convertible for Christmas, but crashes the car before he even owns it. Now Ralphie and his friends Flick and Schwartz must find a ways to raise the money and raise enough money to fix the car before Christmas. The sad thing about this is that this is directed by Brian Levant, and what a downfall from directing fun family films like Beethoven and the Flintstones and Jingle All the Way to this useless sequel that has nothing of value to it whatsoever, with the one exception of Daniel Stern as the old man. In fact, when you really think of A Christmas Story, the sequels, the old man usually is the best part of these movies. In My Summer Story, or It Runs in the Family, Charles Grodin was great as the old man. In A Christmas Story Christmas, which wasn't a great movie overall, which wasn't A Christmas Story Live, A Christmas Story Live, but that wasn't great, but Chris Diamantopoulos as the old man, pitch perfect. I mean, it's the one thing they get right in all these movies, and Daniel Stern is just absolutely great to watch in this, but even he's hamming it up too much here. But at the same time, he's the one that's having the most fun with it, but everything else in this movie is just pure garbage. Like I said, it's literally reference porn from the first movie, and not even that. It's the fantasies. Ralphie should not be having these type of fantasies when he's 15 years old. He's got a girlfriend in this who's basically a stock millennial girlfriend, because you never hear her talk once in this movie until the very end of the film. You don't buy their chemistry whatsoever. She's got a lousy name, too. Drusilla. I don't know. I don't know. The name Drusilla just doesn't seem like... Who names their kid Drusilla? Especially in 1946, when this was supposed to take place. But, like I said, the biggest problem with this movie is that it's trying to copy the magic of the original film and failing miserably. This whole movie feels like a bad parody of A Christmas Story instead of an actual movie like the original film was. And this was around the time when they were really trying to... It's like the Warner Brothers hated the fact that A Christmas Story was getting all this buzz and said, you know what? We're going to make you hate this so much. Let's make the worst possible sequel we can with this. And this was the end result of it. And someone then at Warner Brothers 10 years later said, okay, we're gonna fix this up completely. And we got A Christmas Story Christmas out of it with Peter Billingsley back as a grown-up Ralphie. And that's actually a really good sequel. It's actually one of the few comedy sequels that came well after the original Christmas Story, and yet somehow pulls it off in such an amazing way. Like when Ralphie, at the end of the original Christmas Story, is trying to make it seem like, the icicle hit his glasses and all that, and, when he fools his mother, he's just like, I had pulled it off. Like, that's what it felt like watching A Christmas Story Christmas. They pulled it off. And that is still, that's the real official sequel to A Christmas Story. I don't care what anybody says. That movie is the official sequel to A Christmas Story. If you have not seen it, seek it out. And don't even bother with this one. This isn't a sequel. This is a movie that... This is just a direct-to-DVD sequel with a name that's not even a parody, but a bad parody of A Christmas Story. And it's not... And like I said, it's not a good one. It's not funny. It's stupid. The jokes are so ridiculous. There's way too many scenes of people taking their clothes off in this. Like, Ralphie drops his pants like 5 or 6 times in this movie, and then one of his and then I think Schwartz gets his pants taken off him at some point. It's like, what is this? Like, what am I even looking at here? Even the message of the movie makes no sense, because the whole point of this is that Ralphie has to get a job to get money to fix this car that he was going to get for Christmas. But at the end of the movie, he finally gets the money, and he decides, I'm going to go feed this homeless family here. And then he tells the guy at the car dealership that he's just like, that's fine, Mary, whatever. It's just like, what were we even doing here? Like, what were we even doing here if he's just going to be like, it's cool, man. It's the holiday season. It's just like, why he waited until the very end? Because he wanted to waste your time like he did with me and everyone else who was suckered into this garbage. The trailer was one of those reasons why I never watched this movie until very late on. The fact that CMT still airs this is like it's 24 hours. Like, who the fuck wants to watch 24 hours of this garbage here? And they do it. I think they still do it even to this very day. It's just like, who wants to watch that? Like, I would rather watch the Larry the Cable Guy Jingle All the Way sequel than watch this one again. And that's not a good movie either, but you know what? They're at least trying with that one, but this is just... Oh, this is an unbelievable mess of a film. That probably should have been in my worst video list I did earlier today, but I wish I would have remembered it before I left it, before I did the video, but yeah, bottom line here is that Christmas Story 2 is fucking garbage. If you're going to watch anything from this, watch A Christmas Story. Hell, watch My Summer Story and watch A Christmas Story Christmas. Those are far better films. And hell, if you want to see a modern version of A Christmas Story done right, there's 8-Bit Christmas with Neil Patrick Harris that came out a couple years ago. Seek that one out. It's basically the same movie, except instead of the BB gun, the big BB gun gift in that one is, of course, Nintendo. And it's a great movie. You should definitely check it out. Watch any of those. Avoid Christmas Story 2 like the plague. And hell, I would even say watch A Christmas Story Live. Even though that's not great, still better than this garbage. So there you go. Those are the two movies I forgot to cover last week. So we are now officially caught up. Now let's take a look at this week's new releases. And Christmas Story 2 is bad, but this isn't good either. A Haunted House.
A Haunted House, rated R.
Actually, you know what? Can I go back to A Christmas Story 2, please? Okay, it's not it's not that bad, but it ain't great either. And this just proves that Marlon Wayans desperately needed his brothers to work on this movie and make it right, because when he tried to do it on his own, this is the result you get here. This film pokes fun at the found footage horror genre such as Paranormal Activity and The Devil Inside, and this is the first big spoof movie that we've had since Friedberg and Seltzer, since the Friedberg-Seltzer movies came to an end. And Wayans himself said, it's not exactly a parody, but rather a movie with funny characters doing the opposite of what typical people do in similar horror films. So a parody. I mean, again, this is why you needed Keenen Ivory Wayans and the rest of the Wayans brothers involved in this movie, because holy mother of God, this was a terrible movie. I mean, granted, it's better than the Friedberg-Seltzer movies, and at least it's containing itself to a specific genre, but it's still not funny. It's still not a good movie, and the biggest problem with it is that it's too safe for its own good. It's an R-rated movie, and yet it feels like there's nothing there. All it is just easy targets, lame comedy, and just nothing of value to it whatsoever. It's just a terrible, terrible film. At least a good cast, Marlon Wayans can be a good actor. He can be funny. He can also be dramatic, too. We've seen it so many times in movies beforehand, but here, it's just like there's nothing there for him. Estes Atkins from Girlfriends, she's very funny. She can be in fun stuff, too. Cedric the Entertainer can be funny. Even Nick Swardson, who, his last comedy, Bucky Larson, he said that we just didn't understand comedy. How do you feel about this when this came out? But he can be funny too when he's actually in something good, like Grandma's Boy. David Koechner can be funny. You got Andrew Daly, Alana Ubach, Avion Crockett, Robin Thede, and J.D. Smoother in here. There is a lot of good talent in this movie, but the problem is, it's just a lazy, cheap film in general, and people bought into it. It was a massive hit, and they made a sequel not but a year later afterwards, which somehow was even worse. And yeah, this is a bad movie, plain and simple, but it's like Naked Gun compared to the other spoof movie we'll get to in a couple weeks. I mean, that one in particular, oh god, that one is even worse. But that does not mean that this one is bad, is good either. This one's just not as bad as that one at the end of the month, which we'll get to it later on. But as it is, yeah, you can avoid a haunted house like the plague. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here. Certainly a much better movie, but even then, it's not that great. Ruben Fleischer's Gangster Squad.
Gangster Squad, rated R, January 11th.
So this was a movie that was originally supposed to come out in September of 2012. They had a date set. They had a trailer that came out in the early part of the summer. And then all of a sudden, they just pushed it back. And for the life of me, I can't imagine what exactly happened in that trailer that would have made Warner Brothers say, we gotta take that out because of something that just happened recently.
Babies, you just gotta put them down.
Oh, yeah. I probably should have figured that out. Okay, I did kind of know that. Obviously, the movie theater shooting in Aurora during The Dark Knight Rises premiere, which happened 7 weeks prior, led Warner Brothers to delay it so they can reshoot the old sequence from when the gangsters opened fire at the Chinese theater, which it's a shame because that's a cool looking shot in the movie, but unfortunately, just the bad timing of the Aurora shootings and all that, you can understand why they got rid of it. But at the same time, though, it probably wouldn't have helped the movie in the long run, unfortunately. Set in 1949, you have a group of real-life LAPD officers and detectives called the Gangster Squad, and they're assigned to bring down crime kingpin Mickey Cohen, played by Sean Penn. You have a cast that includes Josh Brolin, Ryan Gosling, Nick Nolte, Emma Stone, Anthony Mackie, Giovanni Ribisi, Robert Patrick, Michael Pena. And this is directed by Ruben Fleischer, like I said, who did Zombieland in 30 minutes or less. I mean, it shouldn't be make for a bad film. Unfortunately, the film is just it's just a bland gangster film, and not even a good gangster film, unfortunately. It's bland stock characters. There's nothing intriguing about this world in general. It's just a really bad film in general. I think David Spade actually said it best when he compared the differences between David Spade said it best. I'll just say that. David Spade said it best. This was really good the first time I saw it when it was called The Untouchables, because it's literally like The Untouchables. The Untouchables was a much better movie. This, yeah, it's just unfortunately the same gangster film we've seen done to death since The Untouchables. The Untouchables did it best with Brian De Palma directing it, and that cast included Kevin Costner and Sean Connery and Robert De Niro, but this... yeah, this is a really lazy film, and despite everybody doing the best they can in terms of casting, I mean, the script overall is a mess. This is a good writer that wrote this, Will Beall, who wrote Aquaman. He also wrote Bad Boys Ride or Die. He wrote Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. So he has written a lot of good stuff, but this one just feels like, I don't know what went wrong with this, but it's just a bland, generic gangster film. And another one with Sean Penn in it, Mulholland Falls, which the only reason that movie has any memorability to it is the fact that Jennifer Connelly gets hella naked at the beginning of it, which the only reason this movie has any other interesting things about it besides that shooting scene in the theater, Emma Stone in this is pretty sexy. I mean, hey, red will do it for me, and she looks like the equivalent of a Jessica Rabbit situation in this. I mean, that's pretty much it. But other than that, though, it's just a boring gangster film with nothing of value to it. A movie that should have been so much better than it actually is, and it was a major, major letdown. I was expecting so much more from it, and it just wasn't there. Such a bust of a film in general. And yeah, you could say that the theater shooting kind of fucked it over in the end, but even then, the movie couldn't have been saved at that point. It's just kind of a bland, generic gangster film. You expect so much more from it, and it's just not there, sadly. So, yeah, that's a skip on Gangster Squad, unfortunately. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies. We'll head into the middle of January next time around with 3 more movies, including Jessica Chastain starring in the horror thriller Mama. We have Mark Wahlberg and Russell Crowe starring in the crime thriller Broken City from Alan Hughes of the Hughes brothers, who gave us The Book of Eli and Menace to Society. And then we have Arnold Schwarzenegger starring in easily the best movie of the week, The Last Stand. A really fun return to form for Arnold Schwarzenegger in this, and having one of the great action lines of recent memory. I'll touch more on that tomorrow on the show. So we'll take a look at those 3 films, but kind of give you a spoiler that The Last Stand's the best of the 3. So with all that said, though, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. And don't forget, we have a new Time About the Movies flashback coming up later tonight, so stay tuned for that. That'll be coming up after I upload this. But with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.